Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. 2020. I'd like to remind you all that in 2012, the official uncovering began. And today, as we pour through some data, I would like to remind you that a lot of these dates that you're about to see occurred in that same year, 2012. But I won't have time to come back. Actually, I might have time. I have no idea. I've not prepped. All I've done is clipped video and gathered pictures. I have done nothing else. But I'm really hoping that we can have a good show today, and I'm glad you guys are here. I want to give a shout out to Guy Bear. Guy Bear can't make it today, but Guy Bear came by and left a super chat to say I can't make it, which is pretty frickin' stellar, I must say. So, yeah, hats off to Guy Bear. Hey, guys. Good to have you. Let's say hi to chat. Hello, chat. Good morning, James. My ladle is ready. A cross to bear. That's an interesting name. A cross to bear. Have yourself a wrench there. It puts the lotion in the basket, says Lane Lashock. Yes, it does. Tricky Woo, how are you? Friends, we all know we've been lied to. Some of us like it. Most of us like it. Most of us don't mind it. Most of us think that at this point, the truth would probably spin some heads and really cause some damage around. But most of us are like, you know what? Fuck it. Because there's so many lies that quite honestly it would be refreshing, regardless of how damaging it might be, you know? And that's what makes uncovering this stuff so hard. Because the moment you start to uncover, it starts to get painful. And you start to feel the weight. You feel like Atlas. You're holding up the world by holding the truth. And it's heavy as fuck. And everyone just yells at you for it. They just yell at you for it. But that's what makes it so valuable. That's what makes it the alchemical journey, right? That's what makes some of you searchers. And others of you squirters, right? There are searchers and there are squirters. That's right. And we are here to search for the truth. And one of those truths is satellites are not real, man. I mean, they're not real. They're not even close to real. I don't mean just like, oh, well, they're sort of real. No. It's what I'm about to show you today is going to explain to you what satellites are. Satellites are not a lie. They're not. As with any kind of clown spiral, it is a stretching of the kneading, of the annealing, of the eviscerating of the truth after it's blended into a fine pulp and passed through someone's orifice a few times to form a paste that can be formed into a shape that has nothing to do with the original shape. However, when you catch a clown lying, they will still insist, but all the parts were true. All the parts that I told you were true. Therefore, they must be. I found this quote. I am God's advocate with the devil. He is the spirit of gravity. Not by wrath, but by laughter do we slay. Come, let us slay the spirit of gravity. Friedrich Nietzsche. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to slay the spirit of gravity, and we're here to expose. Nay, we're here to find ourselves, not expose them. We're here to find ourselves. And we find ourselves by pulling the prana of trust back from the psychopathic gypsy wagon that we've decided to hitch it to. We decided, hey, those fucking clowns in the covered wagon, they seem like good guys. I think that we should entrust them with our central intelligence. And that's what they do. That's what they do. And they do not disappoint, my friends. They do not disappoint. The truth is in plain sight. It is. Helium. Heliopolis. Heliofont, the company that made iPet Goat 2. Heliopolis, the city of obelisks. This was a city famous in the Bible as having more obelisks than any other. In fact, some of them were electroplated, something UNESCO does not want you to know. These obelisks stood in Heliopolis as a temple to the sun. And when we first discovered what helium was, it was only by looking at the sun itself and determining there was something else here. And as we study uranium, we notice, what is it that emanates from uranium but helium? We start to understand that there's something more to helium than we think. In fact, if you were to do a Google, if you were to search, let me see if that's better. No, that's not better. If you were to do a search on Google and find who is the biggest consumer of helium, you would find the answer is NASA. NASA is the largest consumer of helium. But what country has the most helium? Well, it's the United States. In fact, the United States produced more helium than anyone else, and every single bit of that helium, over 90%, went to NASA. Weird, right? Now, if you remember, when we talked about airships, I explained to you that the Hindenburg was brought down by a psyop. In fact, all of the airships across the world, across this land, were actually summarily shot down and injected with fear. And Hindenburg was a ceremony, a burning ritual ceremony of that. Why did it burn? Because there was a helium embargo. The United States wasn't allowing anyone to use helium. But why not? Why not? The New York Times reported that in February 26, 1938, the government obtained a monopoly on the nation's known supply of helium. This is in between World War I and World War II. I remind you all that in World War I, airships with helium were used to bomb London. In fact, after that, part of the treaty was Germany was not allowed to make airships, in fact. It became a symbol of Nazism. It was painted that way on purpose to ground every airship in sight. And it worked. It worked. Not only were airships themselves made illegal, but helium itself was confundiated, was, just made up that word, was hoarded like a grabbler hoarding gold. So too were these Heliopolis worshippers hoarding helium. And NASA on September 27th 2019 continued what they've always continued, which is to award the world's largest supply of helium. Every year, we sign giant contracts. $200 million of helium contracts. And they're there for the International Space Station. It turns out that the International Space Station, my friends, uses $200 million frickin' dollars of helium. All the helium in the world goes to NASA for the ISS. Pretty frickin' weird if you ask me. Pretty darn weird. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a layman, right? Now, in 1931, a fellow by the name of Auguste Piccard took a balloon ride, and he took a balloon ride higher than any other man had ever gone. This was popularized in the August 1931 edition of Popular Science. Interesting to note that this Popular Science magazine was bought shortly after by the CIA. In fact, when you look at Building 7, who explains that, when you look at the Twin Towers, who explains that all of this makes perfect sense, that it was a pancake explosion caused by the burning of jet fuel? But these guys, I just wanted to point that out. They were purchased after Piccard. Piccard was made famous in this article because he went 10 miles high in an airtight balloon. And of course, he said something famous. He explained that the Earth itself appeared flat with an upturned edge. But he said other things too. Two other things that I think most people don't necessarily catch. One of which is, if you look in the left column here, it actually says the explorers trapped samples of the upper air, blue air, as Piccard reported it to appear, in cylinders, proving the exceptionally rich in ozone. This blue gas, he goes on to say, is quite peculiar. In fact, after this report, he was asked again what his plans were and what he was doing, and he explained that they would have to solve life in a high-pressure environment when it came to going up. He didn't say low pressure, he said high-pressure environment. And what's fascinating about Mr. Piccard is right after his famous balloon flight, one of which he was caught up in the air for 18 hours, much longer than he expected, one of which, zero trade wind, caused him to hurl at 1,000 miles an hour around the Earth again. For whatever reason, the wind wasn't blowing that day, and he decided to stay just where he was. In fact, when he fell 18 hours later and touched the ground, he was 35 miles away from his original launch site. Pretty weird if you ask me. Same thing happened with Felix Baumgartner. Same thing. Same thing happened with a couple of Air Force pilots that I might show you later on if our connection stays good. So, why was Piccard fascinated with surviving in a high-pressure environment, not a low-pressure environment? More so, why did he abandon air travel and go into the sea? Why would he construct a vehicle, the exact same framework as a balloon, not kidding, the exact same layout, the exact same engineering as a balloon itself, but decided to go underwater? He elongated his balloon, he made it into what looks like a submarine, but if you look underneath it, there's actually a gondola underneath, and everything above is the bellows. Exact same concept. Pretty strange that he decided for him, before he could go back up, he needed to learn how to survive in a high-pressure environment of blue ether. James, you don't know what you're talking about. That's just silly talk. That's just silly talk, right? No, it's really not. It's really not. Because as what you're about to see is that there's a lot more to this story than we think. Give me a second here. I need to figure out what I've shown you, what I haven't, because I've been working so hard on this. I didn't have time to lay it out in a nice pretty pattern to get you this going. Let's take a look after Piccard. Let's take a look at what happened after World War II. Keep in mind, in World War II, all the helium's been taken. There's an actual helium monopoly. Any kind of production company, of any productions of helium, I think in Texas and in Kansas, are now owned by the government in a monopoly called for national security. And then we slowly enter the space race, right? Sputnik happens. A literal gondola ball is told that it doesn't need a balloon. It could be shot off on a rocket. And it can go so fast that it stays up in the air and it never comes down. No balloon necessary. Fascinating feat of technology. I put this film together. I'd like for you to watch it. I think you'll find it helpful.
By the government. Now, the sensational story spread among the locals, and today it is the stuff of national legend, of vast conspiracy theories, even sizable profits for those who managed to keep this story alive. So what really happened? The U.S. Air Force is about to tell us what it says happened. We're going over to the Pentagon now, where Colonel John Haynes of the U.S. Air Force will tell us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read my prepared statement, and then we'll roll a short video that Captain McAndrew will talk about. These conclusions are listed in page 3, as I said, of the book. Please roll the video.
First clip's pretty quick. I'm going to start off some Air Force Pilot 2 balloon operations, and the first project's going to be a NASA Viking spacecraft tested in New Mexico. This was launched from Roswell, New Mexico in 1972 and is recovered on the White Sands Missile Range, about 100 miles to the west. That is the Voyager Mars. This is during the mid-50s. That's just a comparison of the size. You can see how many airliners you could fit inside a high-altitude research balloon at altitude. These are just some payloads, unusual payloads, not typically associated with a balloon.
About 2,500 balloons launched during this 30-year period in New Mexico alone. We have been talking about other things about space and things of that nature, and this altitude balloon research is quite fascinating, but it was left in the dust. It's something we uncovered, and it's just kind of left in the dust of the space program. It wasn't romantic. Now you have men going up on the end of rockets, and here are guys jumping out of balloons. Kittinger, I believe, broke the speed of sound jumping out of that balloon. Can you imagine that? I mean, I can't imagine it. It wasn't romantic. Now you have men going up on the end of rockets, and here are guys jumping out of balloons. Kittinger, I believe, broke the speed of sound jumping out of that balloon. Can you imagine that? I mean, I can't imagine it. Yes, sir.
Is it possible that the Air Force could have missed something in its investigation? In other words, is it possible that there are unidentified flying objects, that there are extraterrestrial visits, and the Air Force simply has not found it or been able to detect it?
We have researched the Air Force projects and the Air Force information for these year groups. We have nothing else to say about them. You know, we don't believe there's anything else. I have no way of even vaguely believing there's anything else. I promised the gentleman right back here a question, sir, yes, sir.
Well, about 50 years ago today, a Air Force pilot spied a big array of saucers supposedly flying over Washington State. That may have started all this. Does the Air Force think it will never again investigate these reports? As Project Blue Book was the end, and that's it?
You know, I don't ever want to speak for the Air Force about never again, but it's my opinion that they will not. I promised the gentleman right back here a question, sir, yes, sir. I promised the gentleman right back here a question, sir, yes, sir.
Well, about 50 years ago today, a Air Force pilot spied a big array of saucers supposedly flying over Washington State. That may have started all this. Does the Air Force think it will never again investigate these reports? As Project Blue Book was the end, and that's it?
You know, I don't ever want to speak for the Air Force about never again, but it's my opinion that they will not.
I don't even know how to unpeel this, because it's an onion inside of a banana, inside of an apricot, wrapped in the soft, supple, furry skin of a kiwi. And to even start to explain, I'm going to lose about half of you. I'm going to try, though. Number one, the first level that I need you to catch is that there's a clown in the audience. There's more than one clown, but that guy, the guy that you could not see his face, was a clown. And he's the reason why they had that press conference. When I say he, that the purpose of the press conference was that clown. That clown did not say, hey man, what were the 9 flying objects over Washington State? He didn't ask that. He didn't ask, so did you figure out that the 9 flying objects over Washington State were balloons? He didn't ask that. He asked, will you ever come back and revisit the question of what were the 9 objects flying 50 years ago today? Today. On the 50-year anniversary of the very first American newspaper using the term flying saucer and UFO sighting, a clown screws up and calls it an Air Force pilot. He was an Idaho private pilot. He was not an Air Force pilot. On the 50th anniversary, is now dropping this op. And it's so difficult to see because most of us are under the impression that the press is one side, it's one pincer, and the speaker is the other. And the television looks like the neutral party, right? You're watching the television and you believe that these are 2 different sides. Now, what I didn't show, I just didn't get to it. And I'm sorry about that. Right after this interview on CNN, directly after this interview, a UFOologist named Jim Mars is interviewed. And Jim tears apart the Colonel's story, explaining that it's full of holes, that none of this makes sense. You as the audience have just been bitch slapped at least from 3 different directions by the exact same voice. It's the exact same voice. The military, CNN, and the UFOologist are all the exact same voice. But you're left confused. You're left... You get what you want from this buffet. One of you, if you do believe in UFOs, one of you is you are satisfied because you've heard Jim Mars tear it apart. If you don't believe in UFOs, you are satisfied because you heard the Colonel tear it apart. All right? Neither of those are true. Neither of those are true. Instead, the deep, deep, deep truth here, my friends, is that in World War I, it became very dangerous to give civilians the ability to fly with helium. It became very dangerous, and they had to stop that. They had to put an embargo over airships, helium, research, and literally any kind of skeptical discernment with the Air Force. In fact, anyone who's discerning what they were doing was told, you're a UFO crank. That's who you are. CNN wasn't Listen, this is what's so tricky about this. CNN, the military entertainment complex, right? The military industrial entertainment complex, MIAC, had no desire to give everyone a standard story. This is where most of the truthers lose, because they're under the impression that the Leviathan is intelligent, that it has wisdom, that it has a goal, like one goal, and it's not. It's a conglomeration of baby rapers that are all inside a giant potato sack, and they're running, grabbing whatever they can in whatever way they can. There's no system to it, right? It's a rolling fat blob. It swallows whatever's there. It has nothing to do with whether it's hungry or not. This psyop is actually meant to feed everyone at the table. It's not meant to clear anything up. It's not meant to dispel any rumors. No, it's the exact opposite of dispelling. The goal is to feed you. The goal is to make you think higher. The Colonel said it himself. It wasn't sexy enough. We had to go into space because people jumping out of balloons at the speed of sound wasn't sexy enough. Which is fucking weird, because if you ask Red Bull, they certainly found that pretty sexy when it came to Felix Baumgartner. But I digress, because you're missing the entire psyop. There are 3 psyops inside of one psyop. Now, it's going to be really hard to explain, but I'm going to try. You get rid of helium. You're worried about air travel. You're worried about standard citizens traveling in air. You as government don't have dominance. You need something more dramatic. You need something higher than any other inspiration that a standard person could have. You need something impossible. You need to tell people that you did something impossible, and they will look at you and go, "Oh my God, you're so great. I should give you taxes. I should totally pay you taxes. You should be my timeshare cropper. Because you understand things I don't. You go space. Me, Led Zeppelin. You, spaceman walk." And you end up with this illusion. And you could blame the government. You could say, well, that's the CIA's fault. That's the Air Force's fault. No. No, they are feeding. They are feeding. They've opened a soup kitchen. And they're trying to give everyone green beans because they have iron, they have nutrition, they're trying. And they can't get everyone to eat. They can't. They need everyone to eat so everyone will rely on them so they could be the central source of nutrition, right? So what do? They get banana fucking pudding. And they whip that shit out. And we, as consumers, fucking love it. We love that nanner pudding. We will take it. We would rather have that than the green beans. And 40 years later, thanks to bureaucracy, you're no longer serving green beans. All you have is banana pudding, and it's not even bananas. It's high fructose pudding. But it doesn't matter because the entire system has changed. The people that wanted the milk and the people that were giving the milk both became corrupted by their own appetites. It's true. America had an appetite for might. We had an appetite for being on top. We bought into the Sputnik. We bought into the idea that there's a giant fucking pinball spinning through space. And if we don't get one up there too, we're going to die because it's the Russians. We bought that shit. We bought it and we paid for it with a helium embargo, the end of airships, and the launching of a magical word called satellite. On top of 2,500 balloons launched in New Mexico alone. That is 2 balloons every week, if you break down the time frame that he gave. Getting there. Or should I show you guys next? Yeah. Around this, what happened after that? World War II. The Antarctic Treaty. And inside the Antarctic Treaty, you see a fleet of C-19s. A fleet of C-19s ready to take off at any point in time inside of Antarctica. And you see video of giant balloons being launched from Antarctica. They're placed on a tether. They're launched from B-2s. And it's literally our largest Air Force program we have. Guys, 200 million just in helium. Just in helium. These aren't odd pictures. I could show you pictures for days. For days and days and days. I could show you these things. There's no reason to invent satellites. If you saw in that first video, you noticed that these balloons with 300 acres of fabric last for 30 days. They can stay afloat for 30 days. That's so much cheaper than what they're telling you satellites cost. And you can take them down. You can take them down, you could replenish them. Here's an Antarctica satellite launch. Guys, it's all here. And the Orion rocket boosters are on the landing pad, getting ready for launch here at Cape Canaveral. It's a beautiful sunny day. The We're just cleaning off some oil with a snow plow, but pay no attention to that. Of course, with every rocket, it needs a balloon that's 300 square yards of fabric. It's larger than a football field. Again, it looks like snow, but really that's sand. This is Cape Canaveral. That guy, he just has cold, like he gets chilly a lot in the morning. It's like the morning air. It's kind of like it's blowing over the ocean there, and you're just like, whoo. It'll get hot later when the sun comes out. I haven't even gotten to the chute yet. What you saw, that orange part, that's just the drogue chute. These are recoverable balloons, guys. Look, that's how big they are. It hasn't even started. Trust me. It is nowhere near big enough. Those are semi-trucks below it. If you think it's fully inflated, it's not. It actually gets more inflated as it rises, it expands, it gets much, much, much bigger. Much larger than this. The red part you see is the drone chute, the drogue chute. That's actually how they recover it. The drogue chute has an explosion on it, it blows up, and the top chute actually is lost. All that fabric is lost. But then the drogue chute opens, which causes it to fall, and then a frickin' C-19 comes and picks it up. Now we got a lot of dicks in the pool, don't we? Thanks for taking care of it, wrenches. There you go, balloon launch. I mean, satellite launch. And it'll keep going. I'm going to show you another one. $2,500. Just during the Roswell time, 2,500 balloons. Just in New Mexico. Another launch. Looks like a satellite to me. This is a perfected system. They've had this in play for a long time. In fact, what you're about to see is it's an international play. I've told you many times that the ISS is an international blackmail instrument. And I'm about to prove it. Before I show this video, I would like to remind you all that just last year, Donald Trump put out a $12 million hit on the head of the president of Venezuela. On his physical head. He said he would pay $12 million for his head. For the president of Venezuela. If you'd like to know why Venezuela has had such a shitty time, I'd like you to pay attention to this. In 1964, Venezuela acquired a downed American satellite.
A request was made by the CIA to the NRO to convene.
Sorry. In 1964, Venezuela acquired a downed American satellite. The CIA decided to step in. This is what happened. The CIA decided to step in, by the way. So the Central Intelligence Agency decided to step in with Venezuela because of their satellite. Balloon, sorry.
August, a request was made by the CIA to the NRO to convene a meeting. Now, what's interesting about this, when the Venezuelans got this fucking thing, they noticed there was a label that there was a secret label on the fucking satellite. It was marked secret. And they removed that fucking classification from it. This is regarding the history of satellite reconnaissance, volume 2A. This is the list of all balloon launches from the Esrange Space Center in Sweden. Okay? Now, let me take you to the Swedish Space Center. And here is the Swedish Space Center website. This is the Swedish Space Center. And as you can see, they have balloons and rockets, payloads. Here we go. History of satellite reconnaissance, right? This was declassified May 7th of 2012. These are balloon launches, people. These ain't fucking rockets. It says it. List of balloon launches. So I want to go down this list and I want you guys to see something very, very fucking interesting. I want this right here. I know this. This is a satellite. I'm going to take you to this too. There's a video of it online. Anybody want to search this right now? Type this in. ELHYSA. Type that in -satellite. And I guarantee you'll pull up the video for this fucking thing right now. But let's keep going through this so I can show this to you. You see this, people? What does that say? Mir. That's the Mir fucking module. That's the Mir space module that's supposed to be attached to the fucking ISS right now. That's the Mir space module. February 24th, 1997. Here goes another one. Mir. March 17th, 1997. Mir. Let me see. Here we go. Two more. Mir. February 18th, February 19th, 1999. Mir. It's the Mir space module, people. On a balloon. The Mir space module on a fucking balloon. The ISS does not exist complete the way they show it on television. Here go another one. Mir. On a balloon. You want to know where your satellite phone communications come from? Fucking balloon. A balloon, people. A balloon. Inmarsat test. Balloon. If you were to take time to search every single one of these flights to match it up with a particular rocket launch that they claim this fucking thing was on, I guarantee you will be able to compare it with this Swedish Esrange Space Center balloon flight list. Balloon flight list. Balloons, people. For those in Europe, you ever heard of Enviasat? Look at Enviasat. Enviasat. You can't come to any other conclusion. You don't have any other information to prove you were at the launch pad and you saw them put this fucking thing inside the nose cone of a rocket. You didn't see it. I don't give a fuck who you work for. You can work for NASA, you can work for the fucking Germans, you can work for the Russians. You did not see what you thought you saw going into a fucking nose cone of a capsule and with an unedited fucking video stream and put on a launch pad and launched into the fucking sky on a rocket, on a fucking missile, a bomb. You didn't see that because it didn't fucking happen. And here's the documentation right here. NASA, 2011, LED, ESO, high wind. Just check these out. Because I've checked out all of this shit. NASA, 2003, 2013, Sunrise 2. Look at that. Balloon. Balloon, people. That's a complete list. It goes all the way to 2014. 2014, people. 2014. There you have it. There you have it, people. I don't know what else to tell you.
I want to remind everybody that this disclosure document was released on May 7th, 2012. And if you look at what happened in 2012, literally the apocalypse began on 2012. Someone said, "May the apocalypse begin," and all this stuff came out. And it's taking this long to catch up. There's a lot of things out. There's a lot to read. There's a lot to catch up on, right? There's a lot of appetites to feed. There's a lot of people that get freaked out if you tell them satellites or Satelloons. They're getting freaked out that we're not spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. They're upset. It's the same thing that happened with Epstein Temple. I showed people Epstein Temple's fake. It's a painted facade. No children are having their face ripped off. And people were upset. They were mad. They were disappointed. And right now I'm telling people, you're not spinning on a 1,000-mile-per-hour ball through space where no one can hear you, where you're forever shrinking and you're a fornicating monkey. People are upset by that. It's a weird world. It makes you understand a little bit what it's like to be a clown. Hey, this is a class of compassion. You're going to climb into a clown card. You're going to look out of their skull. If you're going to be in this class, that's what's going to happen. It's the only way to understand what's going on. Lady QAnon Bear, the reason why they launch Satelloons in Antarctica is because they're easy to see as they go up and as they come down. Once they reach above 120,000 feet, or however high it is they go, you're not able to see them anymore. It's pure parallax, optical, it's too far away. You can't see it. And that's actually why Antarctica, or maybe I should say one of the reasons why, Antarctica's off limits. Because that's our space program. Our space program is a snow program. It's a frozen snow program. And I'll tell you, I looked up that was a Project Veritas video. Candor put a link, thanks Candor. Candor put a link in chat to his video, and I want you guys to know how important it is that you watch that yourself and give it a thumbs up, because that dude really opens some serious eyes. I'm going to put it in the chat right now, and it will definitely be in the show notes too, guys. Do me a favor. Please don't go to him and tell him that James Drew is showing his video, because if he finds out that I don't think we live on a spinning ball, he's going to get fucking pissed, and he's going to put a copyright strike against me. He does not like... It shows you the delicacy of aperture, that there are people out there that know satellites are fake, but they're not ready for the ball yet. And maybe he's changed, by the way. I don't know this guy. I just have seen him get really mad when other people are using his research for something that he doesn't believe in. And I respect that, okay? So, anyway, just, you heard it. I want you to help him. I want you to support him. And I also want you to know, please don't tell him. He will get me. He could probably tag me for this video, which would be 11 of 12 that are demonetized, but it will be taken down. That's why I put everything on BitChute, so it's okay. I'm also looking to work on DLive, guys. I'm trying to get there. There's just a lot to do. There's a lot to do. Now, I couldn't just trust Veritas because I'm a zeteticist. And I looked at a lot of these things. And one of them, I looked at the call sign itself. And it led me to the actual project page. And this is Invasat. Invasat is a large inactive Earth-observing satellite which is still in orbit. Guys, orbit, for a clown, for NASA, for the military, for the Air Force, orbit means anything that's up in the air. If something's up in the air, it's in orbit. Okay? Space is anything over the Kármán line. All right? A plane can enter space. They've lowered the Kármán line so they don't have to lie anymore. It's a lot like, I shouldn't say her name. It's a lot like someone I used to. It's like being in a relationship with maybe someone who's not honest, and you're watching them squirm and squirt and squirm and squirt. And as long as they lower the terms and change the definitions, Donald Trump can sit in the Oval Office right next to Ivanka Trump, and they can call the ISS, and they can have a real conversation with the ISS as it's orbiting in space. Do you see how this works? Do you see how the clown game works? The clown game is just how narcissist works, isn't it? It's the exact same way. It's like, well, no, I didn't say this. What I technically meant was this, which is this, which is that. So it's not my fault. It's your fault for not understanding me. That's clown world. This is your space program. This is your space program. This is your government serving you. This is the government that we want. Yes, yes. I don't care what you said. It's what we want. Because we as a collective species have a certain hunger. And we hunger for fucking clown balloons. We do. And guys, it's okay. It's okay. Shh, shh, shh. It's okay. We are where we are in this journey. We are where we are on this trail of coming to discernment. We're not going to be able to figure this all out at once, right? Just like we can't blame our parents. Do you understand how hard it was to be given a television set? To have a television set brought into your room, and within 20 years, watching a CNN broadcaster, an Air Force representative, and a UFOologist, all from the same clown van, all from the same clown car, come out on stage. Can you appreciate how hard that would be? You're already mesmerized by this device called the television. You're already blown away by this newness of information that's pouring. You already are subdued by the glitter. And when you're subdued by the glitter, well, if I eat a donut on Saturday, on Wednesday, I really want sugar. It's just true. It's how my system works. I can't have donuts on Saturday. If I can, I really regret them. Because for the next days, I'm riding the lightning, baby. I'm riding the dragon, the sugar dragon. I'm like, hey, baby, give me some of that sugar. She's like, I will give you a donut, but you're going to have to believe in clowns in space. You're going to have to accept the Satelloon, right? This is why I say countries are not what they think they are. Because if they were, there's no fucking way anyone would be able to pull this off. In fact, Venezuela called bullshit. And now there's a 12 or maybe $15 million hit on someone's head. That's what ends up happening every day. Every day it gets worse. Because every day we want to ride that sugar dragon. It's fascinating being here. I mean, there's so many fucking lies. It's fascinating. And at some point, we're going to need to get to this standard where it's like, it's hoax. If we had like a standard vision of everything's a hoax, we'd be much better. But this is why I'm telling you that I firmly believe that God is in on this. I say that because we live in an environment where from a very young age, we're brought into school. And we're taught to regurgitate, right? To automatically believe and regurgitate. Automatically believe, automatically believe. When you're born, God set it up. For the first several years of your life, you were completely dependent on someone regurgitating life force into you, whether it be through an umbilical cord or through a sweet fat nipple. You were taught from a very young age to accept the regurgitation, to trust in it, because you would need it to survive. And then what happens? You turn 18 and then you start to find out, hey, this boobie's tainted. This is tainted milk. And your entire life spirals as you try and either find the truth or try and accept the lie. We're each given a choice, right? As Nietzsche says, I am God's advocate with the devil. He is the spirit of gravity. Not by wrath, but by laughter do we slay. Come, let us slay the spirit of gravity. Do you understand? Gravity is Lord technology. A spinning ball is Lord technology. Ceiling fans orbiting space is Lord technology. And it is easier for you to believe Because when you believe in space, you believe that God's not watching you, which means you can score it all you want. You can do whatever you want morally. You can adopt relativity. You can join the clown brigade. Because God's not watching. Why is God not watching? Because gravity. Because there's something called gravity. And we slowly learn, or we slowly don't. It's up to us. Taken all the helium away. They've embargoed all the airships. They've lied about Roswell. Check this out. That press conference, the CNN press conference was talking about this incident. Remember, he said 50 years. Guys, the fact that it was the 50-year anniversary of this event and understanding Masonic numerology, Marty leads in the house. Come on, these guys, there's something powerful in the anniversary. The very first use ever of the term flying saucer was on June 26, 1947 by the Chicago Sun. The Sun. 50 years before the Roswell papers came out. What was the Roswell story? It was a balloon. Do you understand how fucking clever this op is? To come out and say it was a balloon and subterraneanly installed the belief in space travel by using an extemporaneous belief of extraterrestrials. I hope you can see how this works. If you want to get someone here, you take them up here. And if they don't make it, they'll end up there. This is space. This is government. Is the only entity that can dominate space. Why? Because no one else can do it. Why? Because it's not real. To get there, you're going to have to push people there and have them doubt. And they will automatically collapse like a pancaked building hit by an aluminum plane. You will end up where you want your opponent to be. This is how you lie. This is how you install psyops. You aim for the stars and you hit the moon. Now you understand what the moon was. Seriously, if you truly think about the psychological operation of the moon, you understand that it's a standard for government. It's literally a flag of leadership. It's the Ryan Steakhouse has a flag, and the CIA planted that flag, and everyone believed it, which means there can be no other government, because no one else could do what we did. And by pretending that you're having a space race, by pretending you're having a Star Wars, by pretending you're having a Cuban Missile Crisis, by pretending you're having a nuclear arms race, by pretending there were babies in incubators, weapons of mass destruction, all of it. Everyone comes away from the buffet fat on the idea that government is necessary. That without government we lose space, because you do. With no government, we lose all of our orbiting satellites traveling around space. We lose them all. We lose any chance we ever have of landing on the moon. We lose the ISS. Now, I wrote a novel called Quantum Rapture. And when I started that novel, you can buy that novel, by the way. When I started that novel, it was a love story about artificial intelligence satellites and this couple, these human couples that were kind of working. I started this novel as a story wrapped around satellites. And I spent 3 years researching satellites. I wrote this beautiful chapter where this AI was inside this satellite and he was composing death metal music because he was trapped in space. He'd never seen a human. He was launched from a rocket cone and he came out and all this other stuff. And I started to notice the idea of aerodynamic buoyancy in air travel. And I was trying to picture two things that were really throwing me off with satellites. One, how could you have several tons of weight in the top nose portion of a rocket? Rockets are very particular. If you were to take a bottle rocket and tape a nickel to the side of the bottle rocket, that bottle rocket would not go straight. It would have a horrible slice or hook. And as I was thinking through this, I just imagined that I guess each satellite would have to have this crazy like weight distribution check, right? Where no matter how many times they turned it, it was always had a center point. I was just trying to picture that must be what they do. And then when you get into space, there's this throttling thing where now you're in space and you have nothing to push against, right? You can't push because it's a vacuum. There's nothing there to push against. And I was trying to understand how this propulsion worked, because they're claiming that satellites have a gas, they fart, and when they do that, it moves them around, and I was kind of like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but it never really did make sense because of how the vacuum was always there to swallow the fart. It was always there to take in that outgassing from the satellite, and I couldn't understand how that would ever be used as propulsion. Then I started studying telescopes. I started studying the Hubble telescope, and I realized that, well, they didn't even have gas. They couldn't use gas because it would fuck up the atmosphere. They would ruin their shots. So they had these internal gyros that would spin, these gyro wheels that would spin at super, super fast rate, and that spinning would cause this thing to slowly pitch or yaw or roll in a certain direction. And I kept trying to understand how that would fucking work in a pure vacuum. And it bothered me because I wanted the book done. I wanted to be able to... It was the very first book. I've written 4 books. The very first one was about satellites, and I couldn't finish it because it wasn't believable. Guys, I've written books about some pretty unbelievable things, and I could not get one out of me that explained that satellites were real. It wasn't happening. And I began a long search into this very, very topic, just this topic alone. And it led me down some really uncomfortable alleyways. It led me to where I am now. And it's changed everything. I've had to change everything so all this would make sense. And it makes sense. All of it makes sense. The Helium embargo, the Hindenburg, the Led Zeppelin, the Antarctica off limits, the Roswell Incident, the Kenneth Arnold UFO sighting, the RAF captures, something that looked like a balloon, right? The DC-9 airliner. Look how big these things were back in the 50s. Raven Industries, 40 million cubic foot balloon. This wasn't an experiment. This was a program. All of this was a program. And in order to get us off the idea that balloons and helium and airships were possible, we invented outer space. And we did it in 1947. And we did it again on the Sputnik. But because we don't believe that countries are all working in cahoots, we fall for the drama, just like our grandparents did, or our parents, or whoever, who watched that CNN press release and saw that the UFOologist, the Air Force guy, and the CNN reporter were all 3 different sources. That they weren't related at all. And that there would never, ever, ever be a clown inserted in the audience to ask a question that doesn't even ask the simple question, which was, what were the things we saw flying in Washington? Who instead installed this mystery to it, who kept you wondering and fed everyone at the table what they wanted to hear, just like a narc does. This is the art of feeding people. The CIA understands how the prana economy works. They don't care about lying. They only want to feed you. It's the only way. And we keep buying it. We love that nanner pudding. We freaking love it. So when we look back at the history that we've been through, we think back what all this means. You're shown that the world is so much more amazing than you think it is. That the mysteries are still there. We haven't solved dick. We haven't solved a thing. All we've done is cover them up. And that should be good news. You should be comfortable with mystery. You should enjoy being in a cave and not knowing what's behind the stalactite, what's behind that stalagmite, what's behind the next corner. Oh, there's an underwater lake. What's in there? We should be embracing this mystery. It's part of what makes it so beautiful here. But we've been taught from a very young age to regurgitate. We've been taught to believe that we know everything. And it's true. We do know everything. And everything that we know is bullshit. There's no such thing as knowing. There's not. All there is believing. You're either going to believe something or you're not. And if you believe it hard enough, it's going to congeal. It's going to coagulate. It's going to firm up. And you're going to think that because it's petrified, it must be true. And you're going to wander around proud of yourself for all the true things you know, right? You might have a degree. You might have several degrees. You might have a coat. You might have a white coat that shows everybody how much you know. And the whole time what you know is jack shit. I missed a lot of super chats today. I saw OKC Bear in there. I saw Mr. Peabody. I saw Shane. I saw some others. Thank you guys. Thanks, Lane. Appreciate all you do. Thanks, Steven. Appreciate it. There's more to this story, but I needed to lay the groundwork down. I needed you guys to understand that it's not a theory I have that satellites are Satelloons. All the evidence is there. And in fact, since 2012, people wanted you to know. There is a global great awakening that's occurring. It's built into our environment. And if you look at the grand solar minimum, if you look at this winking that our sun does every 11 years, you see what you're supposed to see. You see the clowns in space. You guys have a great day.